guys, hi, I'm the Moorlander and this is Moorlander EDC. Now cast your memory back to March. Beautiful, actually it was very cold at the time, but it was still very beautiful. Went to Germany to IWA 2023 and came across TB Outdoor. Now they're not a new company, in fact they're a French company that have been around for a long time, one of France's top knife making companies, but certainly new to me. It was the first time that I'd been able to have a look at some of their knives, and there was one knife in particular that, yeah, I just loved the naming of the knife, and that is the opener. I think it's the opener version 2 from TB Outdoor. So you've all seen those memes, you know, we're all knife people. You've all seen those memes where it's like, what my wife thinks I does, and there's like somebody chopping down a tree, and what my mum thinks I do, and it's somebody like cutting up meat, and then what I actually do, and it's just somebody just opening cardboard boxes. So I think for an EDC knife, the nameplate that they have on this, calling it the opener, I think is very good. So yeah, so I spoke to the people there, very nice people, and asked if they were willing to send me one. So this is actually one of the knives that was used on the stand there that they said that they would send my way. So first of all, merci to TB Outdoor for sending this my way. I certainly appreciate that. I've seen a few, or at least I know of a few people that have seen that I've had this knife from showing this on social media, and there's a lot of people that have just nothing but good things to say about TB Outdoor. So yes, I'll leave all of their links below as I usually do, but for now let's take a closer look at the TB Outdoor opener. Okay, so here we have the opener, and I think in a very typical firearm style case. So you find a lot when you pick up new pieces of kit for your firearm. Generally they tend to come in these sort of containers. Just in case you're new to this, you can pull this apart as much as you want and you're really going to struggle. What you have to do is just twist it slightly. There's some teeth there and there, and this will open up. But you can see you have your TB Outdoors adorned all over this in pretty much every language. You can see that it's made in France. You have some information there, and then just I'm guessing this will be the quality control. Oh sorry, that's just the brand registry there on the back. So as I mentioned, you give it a bit of a twist, you'll hear it click, and then you can slide this open and then we'll get the knife out. So let's close that back up again. So yeah, so this is the opener. It is a almost kind of, I was going to say almost kind of traditional style knife. It's traditional in the sense that you have your locking, or at least you have your rotational pin here, you have your barrel spacers. But I will say that there are some advancements in this, especially with some of the materials that are used, and this mechanism here, which we will get onto. But before we do, let's have a look as we always do. So from tip of the knife all the way through to the butt of the scales here, this comes in at 180 millimeters. When it is closed from end to end on the scales, it comes in at 110 millimeters. The blade itself now, as I've mentioned and will continue to mention, so it had the way that the blade is classified here in the UK. It used to be just the cutting edge across this actual radius, so it's ever so slightly longer, but it's changed, so it is now a straight line from the tip to where the ricasso and the scales meet, and on this it is 72 millimeters, which does make this a UK legal or a UK friendly knife. The addition to that is that this is a slip joint mechanism, so there is nothing that will impede this, or no sort of mechanism that has to be unlocked in order for it to close. The thickness of the stock is 3 millimeters. Weight wise, now actually, so the scales on this, so the scales are made from a PA6, which is a type of a reinforced nylon material, but it does help to reduce the weight of this. It's not a particularly heavy knife, just comes in at 54 grams. Now, to go back to then some of the features, the knife itself, the blade stock on this, so you have a flat grind. I'm guessing that we will call this a drop point. I guess it does come down. You might think that it's more of a clip point, mainly because the ricasso here, or at least across the spine, the ricasso then dips down here to a high saber grind. But I think this is just a change in the geometry across the spine there. Really, I think that should be classed as one kind of movement or one straight line. So yeah, I'm gonna call this a drop point. But yes, so you have a flat grind. I'd say this was a saber grind, as it doesn't go all the way to the top. And there is this little feature here. Now, it almost looks like a swedge, which you would get if I turn this over and the swedge went all the way down on this side. So if I can get this so that you can look at it from above, it's just down this one side. So if I'm right-handed and I hold it like this, it's just down this side. I was trying to work out what it's for, because I mean, you couldn't light a fire on it or anything like that, but does anybody know what this is called? I know that there are a lot of knife experts out there that certainly know a lot more than I do about knives. What's this called, this one section here where it's just on the one side? Is that a particularly French thing? I know a little bit about French knives and the geometry of the knives that they use, but yeah, okay. So it has a nice coating on here. You can see that I have been using this and it's just started to dig into that, but I think from the amount of use that I've done this using box or opening boxes, the steel on this, and I have checked a few different sources to try and find the steel on here, and I'm relying on my memory from when I was at IWA. So a lot of the sites will refer to this as it just says stainless steel. But I think from memory, so what they do is, rather than adding the carbon to this, which would then turn it more into a carbon steel and you have your issues with rust, they reduce the carbon in the steel and then infuse more nitrogen into it, which gives it stainless steel properties, but also some carbon steel properties to make sure that you can get more out of this. The cutting edge that they've managed to get on here, and I do need to get one of those sharpness testers. The cutting edge on this is ridiculous. So yes, the other day I did manage to cut my thumb on this. I wasn't paying attention, and it just sliced through it. It really does. It's unbelievably sharp. In fact, it's almost criminally sharp, just how sharp this is. But that certainly isn't a bad thing if you're not an idiot like me and doesn't pay attention what you're doing with knives at the time. So then you get down and what looks like a thumb nick so that you can open this. Now there is also a thumb stud in here, which does make it very easy to open, but should you need to, if you live in an area where you have to have two hand opens, you can take that thumb stud off of there and you can use that as a nail nick to get in there. But this is actually part of the mechanism in here. So if I turn this onto its side, if the camera can pick this up as I'm turning it across, there's no steel liners in here. These are just pure scales. There's nothing else in here other than this one mechanism, and it is this mechanism that is the whole mechanism for the opening and closing. There is a detent. In fact, you can hear the detent click there, and there is also a detent at the bottom. It's not what you'd call a click, but a spring does move this in. So if I'm getting down to about between 7 and 6 o'clock, you can see that it does move it in. But I'll show some pictures here. So this, what looks like a thumb nick, actually continues into the knife, or at least into the rear tang of this, and this is where the whole mechanism works. So this pivot is the mechanism for the detent when it opens and closes. Now you can release this a little bit, so depending on whether you like this to open a little bit freely. I have done it, and yes, you can, if you turn this a little bit, you can spidey flick this open, which is nice. But what you have is you have one of these little grub screws here, so once you've found the tightness that you, or at least the how loose or tight you want it to be, you then put your grub screw back in, and it will make sure that will keep that at that same tightnessity. I didn't even think that's a word, but it is now. As far as barrel spacers, there is a barrel spacer here on the end, which is quite a large barrel spacer in there, but there is an internal barrel spacer in there as well, which is actually quite difficult to see, but on the outside it gives us this really nice kind of aesthetic. What I also like on here is the pocket clip. So the pocket clip is removable, but you don't need any tools or anything like that to be able to remove it. Instead, you pinch it together, give it a bit of a wiggle, and it will pop out. So if you can see on the inside, or at least there, you have these two prongs which just push together when it goes in there. Should you want to change it to the opposite side, it is 100% ambidextrous and reversible. Then you just pinch them together and you can put them in there as well. The scales themselves, actually I need to put that back on. No, I've got that on the right side. I thought I got it on the wrong. No, I've got it on the right side. Where did I have it before? I forget now. Where do you usually have it? Is it this side? Making myself look like a knob now. Yes, it is that side. Right, okay, so scales on this, as I mentioned, these are what was it, the PA9, PA6, sorry, nylon material. It's really nice. It almost feels like, what's that? Is it the FRN material? Kind of feels like that. There's a little bit of a sheen to it. I certainly wouldn't say that it's slippy in the hands, but as it comes down, so I wouldn't really class this as a finger choil, mainly because that is where that detent goes in there. There are very smooth lines across here, so this line goes all the way from the bottom of the scales through the belly of the knife to the tip, and then across the top here you have the same across the scales onto the shoulder of the knife. But when it's closed, those lines fit in perfectly within there as well. Now on the back here there is some jimping on the knife, which is great, but this jimping, when it closes, isn't there anymore, and it's also below the scales here, so you don't get actually any use from that jimping, which is a little strange, I will say. But then you've also got some contouring down here to where your hand swell is. Now I wouldn't say that it's a particularly thick knife, but it's nice just to be able to get that to add to the ergonomics on here. If I push my finger forward so it goes past where the thumb nick is, I can get all four fingers around easily. If I did bring my finger into that thumb nick and then close my hand again, I can still get all four fingers around the knife scales as well and get a good grip on that as well. There's no give, or at least if there is any give, you know, it's minimal. I think it does a very good job of being able, the scales do a very good job of being able to hold the knife. And also when it's out, well, no, there's no movement, there's no rattle, there's nothing in there when it closes as well. Now I will say, it looks like it's off center, but it's not. That is because you have this one swedge on one side, but not the other. So it looks like it's off center, but when you look at the tip through the bottom, which you probably can't see there, it is actually perfectly centered. I think this is a great knife. It does what it needs to do, and it does it exceptionally well. Being able to cut through boxes, I've done some cardboard testing on this, and it is still just as sharp as it was when it arrived. Like I say, still sharp enough that she decided to bite me the other day. Now the opener is, as the name says, a very good knife at being able to open your cardboard boxes. But it's also just a great EDC knife. It's the perfect size, it fits in your hand really well. It's ridiculously sharp, hence the little bit that it managed to take out of my finger the other day when I was just not paying attention and being a bit of a knob. I like the design of this, I like the actual cut, I like the lines on here as well, the fact that they've paid attention to not just, you know, how it works, but how it also looks, and the innovation that they have in there so that you don't have to worry about detents or anything like that. The whole mechanism is in the pivot pin. Yeah, very impressed with this, and certainly looking forward to seeing more from TB Outdoor in the future. I know a lot of you have mentioned, was the knife a lot of you mentioned, is it the CAC? The CA, I think it's the CAC, which is the one that they give to French troops. So yeah, I'll drop them a line and see if we can maybe work something out and have a look at those knives. The fact that also as well, made in France. Okay, I like the fact the French are very proud of the things that they make, and as they should do. They're a very proud nation. And I think it's great that they've gone, no, let's not have this sent to wherever and then we have to worry about QC and all of that sort of stuff. Let's make it here, fabriqué en France, to make sure that we can give out the best quality knives that we want to put our names to. It's a very French thing to do, and you know, again, I doff my cap to that. I think that's certainly a good standard to set yourselves. So yes, I will leave some links below so that you can see more from TB Outdoor, more from the opener. I'll leave some of my social media links as well below. But for now, stay safe, stay Moorlander, and stay EDC. Oh. Bob, 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 bob. What are you doing? Come here. Come on. Oh. People haven't seen Norman for a while, although he's always kind of pottering around. Are you finding me any squirrels? Go on then, big lad. Right, where was I? Just wait for the light to adjust. Not the light to adjust, but the light to adjust. Shoot! Hi, I'm the Moorlander, and this is Moorlander EDC. Now cast your memory. I'm sure it's memory. Let's go with memory. Let's try that one again. Edgy face. Started talking then. I was probably about 2 minutes in, and then realised I hadn't hit record. Well done, Moorlander. I do that a lot. It's only when the camera turns off and you're like, damn it. So where were we? I had to pause then. I was trying to think of something French. It's been a long time since I've spoken French. I used to go to France a lot. So probably a good 6, maybe 7 years running. Yeah, I love that country. Brittany, so we used to do Brittany, Normandy, Saint-Malo, Rennes, which I suppose is just a little bit further inland, Carentan, Le Mont-Saint-Michel. That's probably one of, outside of the Kingdom of the Moorlands, Le Mont-Saint-Michel is probably one of the best places you will ever visit on earth. Yeah, just parking, going across the causeway to it, really does feel like you're going into some sort of Lord of the Rings set. I believe Henry VIII went over to visit French nobles, or you know, whoever was there, and he'd seen Le Mont-Saint-Michel and fallen in love with it, and he was like, I need one of those, build me one of those. And that's where St. Michael's Mount came from in Cornwall. There's a little bit of history. I bet you weren't expecting that today, were you? So anyway, yes, love this knife, really nice knife. You should definitely make sure you check out. So yeah, there you go. I've waffled. I like a little bit of waffle at the end now. I think this is my thing. Maybe I should do more waffling at the end. So yeah, I hope you're all good, having a good time. Au revoir. There's my French for you. There you go.